Assalamu alaikum. In the class of Islamic economics. Uh, so, if you remember, in my previous class, I have discussed with you about the syllabus of the Islamic economics paper, and I have already briefed you that the syllabus of Islamic economics is divided into 5 units. Right? The first unit is actually the fundamentals of Islamic economics, in which the focus is on making you understand the key terms and terminology and the core concept of Islamic economics, and to make you understand the difference between the conventional economics and the Islamic economics. That is the system. That is the system which I have already discussed it with you. Okay. Today, I would like to uh, discuss and I would like to deliver. Right. Very few content on the PowerPoint slide. Rather than, I would like to be more sort of an interactive type of session with you. First of all, I would like to share my knowledge and my understanding and my experience with Islamic economics, because I'm associated with this paper for 7 8 years, you can say. So, what is my experiences about this area and this new branch of study, which is Islamic economics? How relevant this is in the current scenario, and how do Islamic finance and banking is related to Islamic economics? So, first question is this, which I discussed in the last. Why we have included this paper of Islamic economics, why the knowledge of Islamic economics is so core and fundamental that we are talking this in the second semester of MBA Islamic Banking and Finance. That means that is something is there which sets the background for your course of Islamic Banking and Finance, and this knowledge which you are getting from this paper, you are going to imply, you are going to use it in your corporate life. Fundamentally speaking, we believe that you have a fairly good idea about conventional economics. Although we know that you don't have any background of economics, you are from diverse background. Some are from engineering, some are from uh, arts, some are from other areas where they are very less exposed to economic concepts. But in first semester, you have studied in detail about the conventional economic system, right? In the current system, which we are talking about, the conventional economic system, if you recall, the focus is on telling you about demand and supply, the various curves of demand and supply, and primarily we try to focus it on the macroeconomics part and microeconomics part. So we classify them into microeconomics, which are individual units, and macro, which are more broader. Same logic we are going to follow in Islamic economics, but one thing we have to keep in our mind, that there is some difference in terms of its applicability. There is some difference in terms of the terms and condition. There is some difference in terms of the ideology of conventional economics vis-a-vis to Islamic economics. And that understanding, that principles and that concept of Islamic economics are very well perpetuated in the Islamic banking and finance. So all the products of Islamic banking and finance, we have different products in Islamic banking and finance, like insurance, like mutual funds, like home loan, like motor loan. All these products of Islamic banking is actually based on the principles of Islamic economics. Fundamentally, in conventional economics, there is very less focus on things which are permitted and things which are not permitted. That is, things which are allowed and things which are not allowed. Whereas in Islamic economics, the focus is on that we should have a categorical difference between what is allowed and what is not allowed, what is permitted and what is not permitted. And we have to deal these types of products and commodities in a different way altogether. We should know the difference between what is allowed and what is not allowed. So this categorical difference between what is allowed and what is not allowed is very much focused in Islamic economics. And based on that, the principles of demand and supply, the principles of commodity, the principle of competition, the principle of enterprise and organization, the principle of consumer, all is based on that. तो जो भी कुछ आपने कन्वेंशनल इकोनॉमिक्स में टर्म्स पढ़े थे, all are valid here, but with some other principles and some other ideological setup. Ideological setup. So, with this, I would like to first of all start with telling you with some core concept of Islamic economics. Where is this the core concept of Islamic economics? I'm just coming back to that. Number one, if you want, you may please note down some points. Right? Am I once again? I'm repeating. Am I audible to all of you? Is my voice
Yes.
clear?
Yes.
मुझे आवाज नहीं आ रही आपको. हेलो हेलो.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay, fine. Now, I request all of you to please note down some points which I'm telling you. I'm not showing you my PowerPoint presentation. I'm just telling you some points. The first is I'm just telling you about the objectives of Islamic economics. What are the key objectives of Islamic economics? You please note it down. First objective is that in the Islamic economic system, each and everyone has a right to perform or to function according to the ability, according to their aptitude and their own choice and liking. Now, this is a very fundamental objective. इस्लामिक इकोनॉमिक्स का जो कोर ऑब्जेक्टिव है, फर्स्ट ऑब्जेक्टिव वो ये है कि एवरीबडी हैज अ राइट टू वर्क अकॉर्डिंग टू देयर कैपेबिलिटीज एंड दे हैव देयर ओन चॉइसेस एंड लाइकिंग. देखिए कितनी इंटरेस्टिंग बात है. एक तरफ तो मैंने आपको बताया वी हैव रिस्ट्रिक्शंस ऑन some which are permitted and which are not permitted, but at the same time you have a full freedom of your own choice and liking under permitted system. So there are certain permissions which are already given and you are free, right? The role of market forces are very important in Islamic economic system. The presence of market forces is compulsory. If there is no market force, that there is monopoly, then the system will not operate. So the working of market forces to be operational is one of the primary condition of the working of Islamic economic system. तो इस्लामिक इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम जब भी वर्क करता है जब मार्केट फोर्सेस कॉम्पिटिशन एग्जिस्ट करता है. अगर कॉम्पिटिशन एग्जिस्ट नहीं करेगा so then there would be lot of social problems and that leads to the collapse of economic system. And we have seen in conventional economics that the system get collapsed because of the absence of market forces. So presence and not only presence, operationalization of market forces is necessary in Islamic economic system. Right? The system should be very fair. Fair in the sense that everybody will get what they deserve to, irrespective of their caste, irrespective of their religion, irrespective of their color, and irrespective of their any belonging to a community. There is no partiality, there is no difference, there is no classification in terms of all these factors: caste, religion, uh, races, and all these things are not at all or does not have any place in Islamic economic system. So everyone will get an equal right. Right? You have learned in your paper of Islamic banking and basics of Islamic banking the concept of profit and loss. आपने पढ़ा होगा profit and loss का concept. So can anybody out of you tell me what is this principle of profit and loss in Islamic financial system? Yes.
Sir, profit and loss sharing.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Sir, is it profit and loss sharing?
Profit and loss share. Okay, good. PLS share. So that's what I'm telling you, that which is also valid here, that profit and loss sharing mechanism should always be there. And how can you ensure this mechanism of profit and loss share? Participation. So your equal participation in profit and loss is very important. So equal participation in profit and loss is a compulsory part of Islamic economic system. Right? What is the core concept of money in Islamic economic system? The concept of money in Islamic economic system, or we call it as wealth. हम इकोनॉमिक्स में मनी और कैपिटल को कहते हैं वेल्थ. The condition, the objective of Islamic economic system is that wealth needs to be circulated in equitable manner. There should not be any concentration of wealth or there should not be any stagnation of wealth. Wealth कहीं पे भी concentrate नहीं होनी चाहिए और wealth कहीं पे भी stagnant नहीं होनी चाहिए. It should be in proper circulation and in a very equitable manner. मैंने आपको पहले ही बताया कि there Islamic economic system has a core ideology of equitability. Everybody has an equal right without any discrimination. And this is a condition which is mandatory because wealth needs to be circulated, right, in a very equitable manner. So economic system is like this one. Although we are talking about a very ideal system when the wealth is circulated equitably, when everybody has an equal right, when there is no discrimination, no partiality, then there is no concept of poor and rich. But still it exists. अब आप सोच रहे होंगे इतनी आइडियोलॉजिकल सारी कंडीशंस हैं, then why there is the existence of poor of rich? The fact of poor and rich cannot be overruled. The existence of poor and rich cannot be overruled. But the objective of Islamic system is that we have to narrow down the gap of poor and rich. ये बात आप नोट कर लीजिए that the objective of Islamic system is, all the principles of Islamic economic system is, how do we narrow down the gap of poor and rich? Because you cannot overrule their presence. वो तो exist करेगा, कुछ poor है और कुछ rich है, लेकिन अगर वो gap बहुत wide हो जाए तो फिर there's a problem. And this widening of the gap of poor and rich is a result of all the improper practices which is followed in conventional economic system. So the objective of Islamic economic system is that we have to make our system so robust that we try a little best to minimize the gap between rich and poor. So in summary, when we talk about the Islamic economic system, I'm just repeating that everyone has a right to work according to their own ability. The presence of market forces are always there. Your participation in profit loss is important. Wealth should be in circulation, not in stagnation. And last but not the least, the system is designed in a way that the gap between rich and poor should be narrowed down, should be minimized. These are the objectives of Islamic economic system that we have to talk about. Now, when we talk about Islamic economic system, there are two dimensions of it. I'm talking about the two dimensions of Islamic economic system. One, we call it as spiritual dimension, which you all know that spirituality, which comes out from your religious teaching, irrespective of any religion, be it Islam, be it Hinduism, be it Christianity, be it any religion. Spirituality comes from your core value, from your value system, right? So Islamic economic system has one dimension which is spiritual, which you take it as a value system, which you inherit from your family, from your parents. Second is the operational part, and we call it as legal dimension, which is nothing but a controlled and internally managed capitalism. That is, we have to manage it, we have to control it internally. That is what we have the legal dimension. So I'm repeating that when we talk about the Islamic economic system, we have two dimensions of it. Number one is spiritual dimension, and number two is the legal dimension. Spiritual is the value system that we all get out from we take out from our family, and that is derived from our religious teaching. And number two is the legal dimension, which is the management of the entire system in a very controlled and internal management operationalization. Right? Now let's talk about first of all the first dimension, which is the spiritual dimension of Islamic economic system. As I have already discussed, that Islamic economic system derive their spirituality from teachings of the religion, and most of the teaching from different religions are common. आप ये बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात पाएंगे कि जब हम क्रॉस रिलीजन एनालिसिस करते हैं तो हम ये देखते हैं कि ज़्यादातर रिलीजन्स के अंदर जो टीचिंग्स हैं वो कॉमन है. हर रिलीजन कहता है कि फेयर रहिए, हर रिलीजन कहता है इक्विटेबल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, हर रिलीजन कहता है बिलीव ऑन गॉड, बिलीव ऑन अलमाइटी, and the day of judgment. These are some of the very important facts and figure which are there in every religion. That is what religion is all about. Religion हमें क्या बताता है? Religion हमें यही तो बताता है कि how do we behave to our society, how do we behave to humankind, how do we work for the welfare of humankind and cooperation. So irrespective of you know the dimension, we have this spiritual dimension, and when you follow the spiritual dimension in economics, that automatically fulfill the requirement of equitable distribution, that automatically fulfill the requirement of wealth circulation, that automatically fulfill the requirement of existence of competition and market forces. So that is the reason that economist always placed a spiritual dimension of economic system at the number one position. ये पाया गया है कि जहां जहां हमने स्पिरिचुअल डायमेंशन से कंप्रोमाइज किया है, वहां वहां प्रॉब्लम आई. World has witnessed global financial crisis from 2008 to 2010, you would call it like this. And the expert, when they analyze the causes of the financial crisis, जब उन्होंने analyze किया causes को, the most important cause that emerged out of them is the moral problem, value problem. So this concept of wealth maximization is completely opposite of the spiritual dimension. ये जो concept है जो हम पढ़ते हैं wealth maximization का, which is totally against the value system. So this has been witnessed and this has been reiterated, this has been advocated, that if you want to develop an Islamic economic system, you should have a proper spiritual value system at place. What is spiritual value system? It talks about the welfare of humankind. It talks about the cooperation. It talk about the equitable distribution, irrespective of any discrimination. And these teachings are common in all religion. Right? Now, when we talk about the legal system of I would say economics, is, irrespective of any economics, is also valid here. जो आपने कन्वेंशनल इकोनॉमिक्स में लीगल सिस्टम पढ़ा है वो यहाँ पर भी एग्जिस्ट करता है. What are they? Number one, the ownership, public private. आप देख रहे हैं कितनी सारी फर्म्स पब्लिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को प्राइवेट किया जा रहा है, और ऐसा भी ट्रेंड था कभी कि प्राइवेट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आर नेशनलाइज्ड. So in some country, the trend is that private are becoming nationalized. In some country, the process of privatization is going on. So concept of ownership, who owns the right of control, is very important and is very central as far as the economic system is concerned. कौन enterprise को govern कर रहा है, ownership किसके पास है, that is very critical. So the concept of ownership, which is private versus public, is the central to the legal system of economic system. Right? Number two, the incentivization, incentives, the compensation, the income, the salary. All these are very, very important part of economic system, because you know that economics is all about the monetary aspect. Economics क्या है? हम कहते हैं ना आपका economical condition कैसी है. So when we talk about an individual or when we talk about an enterprise, economical conditions is all about the monetary value. So incentivization is a very, very important and a core concept of this system. Right? So when we talk about the legal system, it has three main components. Number one, ownership, which can be public and private. Number two, incentivization, that is the compensation. And third, and the most important one, market. What is market? The place where buyers and sellers exist, the place where demand and supply exist, the place where competition exists. So market structure, market component, market stakeholder, all are very important as far as Islamic economic system is concerned. Okay. Now, when we talk about the Islamic economic system, definitely management play a very, very important role, because we are talking from the management point of view, and which is the important part. So control and management are the two important aspects. Now, what we are going to manage? What is the challenge for the management? The biggest challenge that Islamic economics answer, or that the biggest challenge that economics handle, is the number one, that is the equitable distribution of wealth. आप ये कैसे इंश्योर करोगे कि वेल्थ इज क्रिएटेड, नंबर वन, एंड इज डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड इक्विटेबली without any discrimination? That is very, very important. And we have a system of zakat, we have a system of waqf properties and all, and number of other charitable organizations, social organizations, where their job is that they ensure that the equitable distribution will take place. But equitable distribution of wealth is not the job of only social organization. हमें इसको कोर जॉब बनाना है. We have to, the Islamic economic system is that equitable distribution of wealth should be the core area where we need to work on, right? And number 2 point, as far as the management is concerned, number one is equitable distribution, and number two is we have to make a proper control on what is allowed and what is not allowed, what is halal and what is haram, what is prohibited and what is not prohibited. This demarcation is always there at its place. So Islamic economic system is not only concern of wealth creation. Islamic economic system concern of wealth creation through permissible mode. Non-per modes are not allowed in Islamic economic systems. Is whatever I am discussing it with you is clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Abdul Ahad?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Umama, is this point clear to you? And Nafis?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Aditya, am I able to
Yes,
make you
yes, sir.
I'm able to make you understand the point? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the core of Islamic economic system is equitable distribution. The core of Islamic economic system is the existence of market forces. The core of Islamic economic system is wealth creation through permissible mode, not by non-permissible mode. ये कुछ ऐसे फंडामेंटल हैं जो इस्लामिक इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम के अंदर है, और वो इस्लामिक इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम को कन्वेंशनल इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम से डिफरेंशिएट कर. As I have already discussed, that equitable distribution of wealth is core. It's a core concept of ideology of Islamic economics. I have already discussed there are two parts of equitable distribution. Number one, you should develop your wealth. That is, wealth is created through allowed modes, through permissible modes. मैं बार बार permissible modes word use कर रहा हूँ because I know that you have already learned in your paper of basics of Islamic finance about what is halal and what is haram from Islamic banking and finance point of view, from Islamic teachings point of view. Same is valid here, that all those modes which are not allowed, which create problem to society, it's altogether not allowed in Islamic economic system for the creation of wealth. Islamic wealth needs to be created from permissible modes. So one important aspect of equitable distribution of wealth is that you create Islamic wealth from permissible mode. Number two, how do you ensure the circulation of wealth so that the gap between poor and rich will be narrowed down as far as possible? हम एक ऐसा सिस्टम कैसे बनाएंगे कि वेल्थ ना सिर्फ क्रिएट हो बल्कि प्रॉपर फ्लो करे, और वो ऐसे फ्लो करे कि जो पुअर और रिच का गैप है वो कम से कम तर रहे. इट वुड बी मिनिमाइज टू द लेवल एज फार एज पॉसिबल. दैट इज द yardstick, that is the parameter of understanding the equitable distribution of wealth. अभी कहना बहुत आसान है, हम आपको बता रहे हैं और लेक्चर दे रहे हैं, but when you talk in reality, that play a very important, that is a very challenging task, because distribution of something is to be done by channel. आप जानते हैं कि डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कैसे होता है? चैनल से होता है. एंड इन द चैनल वी हैव डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ एंटिटीज, स्टेक होल्डर. How do you make them think of equitable distribution? And due to this reason, we have the concept of the institutions of zakat, right? We have the institutions, we have the concept that you have to take out something from your income, which is a certain percentage of your income, and that percentage of income you have to distribute it to the poor and the needy. So poor and the needy person will get the deserved amount, will get the contribution of your income. This is one mechanism, but this is not the only mechanism. We have to develop a system which is so robust and flexible so that we can ensure that equitable distribution will take place, and that will bridge in the gap between poor and rich. So we'll discuss this concept of zakat and all in detailed way later on. But at this point of time, you should have to understand कि डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हमें करना है, उसमें बहुत सारे स्टेक होल्डर हैं. हर स्टेक होल्डर से हमें इस बात को कहना और करवाना कि the wealth should be distributed equitably without any discrimination, without any partiality, and without any concentration. That is a big challenge. That is a big challenge. But that is how we have to work on. This is our objective, and we have to develop this system. Now let's talk about, I'm talking about again and again about the circulation part, the wealth circulation, money circulation. Uh, I hope you are clear with this concept of circulation. I'm talking about the flow of money from rich to poor and vice versa also. So flow of wealth from rich to poor and vice versa is what the circulation is all about. It is in circulation. How could it be possible? कैसे ये possible होगा? From economic point of view, there are certain points which we need to understand when we talk about the economic system. The purchasing power. Now we have to think about how do we increase the purchasing power of different communities and different sections of society. Now, if you increase the purchasing power of the different sections of society, that would automatically leads to the circulation. जब आपकी खरीदने की एबिलिटी बढ़ेगी, जब आप जो सोचोगे वो खरीद सकते हो, तो फिर सर्कुलेशन होगा. और इसके वाइस वर्सा, इसका अपोजिट क्या है कि जब आप में वो कैपेबिलिटी और वो एबिलिटी नहीं है खरीदने की, तो आप क्या खरीदोगे? फिर आप कैसे सर्कुलेट करोगे मनी को? So we have to develop a system which will increase the purchasing power, right? If you increase the purchasing power, that would automatically lead in more sales. आपने मार्केटिंग में पढ़ा है sales. So if you want to increase your sales, you have to do something. You have to develop that system of sales. Now sales is directly linked to the volume of production. We are talking in operations management about the size of production, volume of production. So when you produce, sell. Where there is a demand in the market, when there is a high purchasing power, everything in this system is linked to each other. ये सारी चीजें आपस में linked हैं, जुड़ी हुई हैं. We have high purchasing power, we have more demand from the market, and when there is more demand in the market, definitely there is a higher volume of production. और इसका वाइस वर्सा क्या होगा? ना तो परचेजिंग पावर है, ना मार्केट में डिमांड है, और जब मार्केट में डिमांड नहीं है तो फिर कोई सामान क्यों बनाएगा, कोई प्रोडक्ट क्यों बनाएगा, कोई कमोडिटी क्यों बनाएगा? एंड देयर वुड बी अ स्टैग्नेशन in the manufacturing, in the service sector. So circulation here is that you have to develop your economic system in that a way that money flow from rich to poor and vice versa also. This could only be possible if you increase the purchasing power, which ultimately leads to more demand from the market, that is sales, and which leads to higher level of production in the organization. Right? This is one very, very important way of increasing circulation. But in case if there is any problem in that area of circulation, मान लीजिए परचेसिंग पावर अभी नहीं बढ़ सकती, मान लीजिए सेल्स भी एकदम बूस्ट अप नहीं हो सकता, मान लीजिए प्रोडक्शन लेवल भी डाउन है ड्यू टू सम रीजन. So do we have any alternate mechanism of increasing the circulation? Now the answer is that yes, we have the alternate system of increasing the circulation. And the alternate system of increasing the circulation are like the provisions of zakat, the provision of sadqa, the provision of a charity, philanthropy. So charity, philanthropy, sadqa, zakat, all these are the alternate modes of circulating the wealth in the economy. I hope I am able to make you understand when I'm talking about the circulation of wealth. आप समझ पा रहे हैं इसको?
Yes, sir.
तो कुछ तो कन्वेंशनल वेज हैं जो होते ही होते हैं. परचेजिंग पावर को बढ़ाना है, डिमांड अपने आप बढ़ेगी, प्रोडक्शन बढ़ेगा. लेकिन अगर किसी वजह से ऐसा नहीं हो पा रहा तो वी हैव सम अल्टरनेट मैकेनिज्म? द आंसर इज यस, वी हैव अल्टरनेट मैकेनिज्म. चैरिटी, philanthropy, sadqa and zakat are few alternate mechanism which exist in different economics. And Islamic economic system advocates these alternative mechanism of ensuring the proper circulation of wealth in the economic sector.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, as in this conventional financial systems, we have repo rates and reserve repo rates and other things in order to control the liquidity in the market. So, in Islamic economics, do we have only these voluntary charities, or is there any other official kind of thing that
No,
can be
no,
controlled by central banks?
no. Bilal, if you recall my discussion, all these charity, philanthropy, sadqa, zakat are alternate modes of of wealth circulation. What you have said and what the conventional economics, it's all exists in Islamic economics, right? So repo rate and all, which is governed by the centralized authorities, are very much applicable, right? Or we have the same calculations with some modifications. हमारे यहाँ सब वही calculation है. We have the market rate, we have the market risk, we follow the international standards with some modifications. तो वो अपनी जगह पे एग्जिस्ट करता है. That is not a problem at all. ये तो जो बताए गए थे मैकेनिज्म थी ज़्यादा अल्टरनेट मैकेनिज्म के पैरेलली अल्टरनेट सिस्टम भी एग्जिस्ट करता है. दैट इज द पॉइंट. ठीक है. Okay. Now, one of the biggest challenge of conventional economics, capitalism, is the monopolistic system. You have seen in every industry, you have seen in every country, there are certain family, there are certain stakeholder which control majority of the market share. That is a very harmful sign. ये बड़ा harmful sign होता है कि 3-4 families हैं जो पूरी economic system को control करते हैं. Now that is against the value system. That is against the equitable distribution of wealth. Now, we should have some mechanism with the help of which we can prevent the creation of these monopolies and control this unjust and immoral earning of due to this monopolistic system, right? So, in Islamic economic system, we have a proper rule whereby the wealth cannot be concentrated in the hands of few. The wealth needs the earnings, the wealth, the income should be generated in a very equitable manner so that this the tendency of monopolies and the tendency of monopolistic economic system will be cut down to its minimum level. That's very, very important. Now, the most important thing is that, which I would like to discuss it with you, that I am saying that we have to somehow protect ourselves from the creation of monopolistic system. How do you protect? How do you prevent yourself from monopolistic system? The answer lies from the religious teaching. That is what the spiritual dimension. Now, when we talk about the spiritual dimension of the Islamic economic system, we know that our value system already has provisions, already have system which can protect ourselves from the creation of any monopoly, right? Like, for example, our value system and our religion has already given us the concept of market forces which are operational. That is, what do you mean by market forces in a layman's language? The presence of buyer and seller. हम जानते हैं कि हमारी रिलीजियस टीचिंग, हमारी स्पिरिचुअलिटी, हमारी से मेरा मतलब है ऑलमोस्ट ऑल रिलीजन. When we talk about the spirituality, I'm talking about almost all religions. So in all religions, there is a concept of buyer and seller. There is a concept of fair deal. There is a concept of transaction. Now, if there is a proper system of buyer and seller, there is a proper system of exchange, there is a proper system of transaction, that would automatically leads to market forces. And when there is a market forces, they control the existence of monopoly. मोनोपोली तो जब ही होती है ना जब बायर सेलर तो एक होता है और बायर बहुत ज़्यादा होते हैं, तो फिर वो दैट इज अगेंस्ट द प्रिंसिपल, द आइडियोलॉजिकल प्रिंसिपल ऑफ इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम. यू शुड हैव मेनी बायर्स एंड मेनी सेलर्स एंड यू हैव अ चॉइस टू बाय और नॉट टू बाय. तो ये जो हमने अभी आपको कहा था कि डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं चाहिए और एवरीबडी इज इक्विटेबल राइट, वो यही था कि अगर मैं खरीदना चाहूंगा तो खरीदूंगा, नहीं खरीदना चाहूंगा तो नहीं खरीदूंगा, और मेरे पास चॉइसेस हैं कि मैं यहाँ से भी खरीद सकता हूँ और यहाँ से भी खरीद सकता हूँ. ये नहीं है कि मुझे एक ही जगह से खरीदना है.
The market need to be efficient.
Exactly, whatever word you call it as, if you call it as flexible, you call it as efficient, you call it as consist of market forces, the layman's language is that it has multiple buyers and multiple sellers and you have a choice. The only thing is that you have to take care of the prohibited and permissible, what is allowed and what is not allowed. That's it. Now, I'm talking right from the start about the prohibition. What are the things which are prohibited? From the economic system point of view and from Islamic economics point of view, the number one provision is, you all know, is riba, which is interest. Any undue, any unequitable creation of money is riba, is interest, which is completely banned, which is completely prohibited in Islamic economic system. Because any undue creation of income, it leads to discrimination and which is against the principle of equitable distribution. पहले यही तो होता था कि जो साहूकार होता था, जो इंटरेस्ट लेता था, देता था, वो तो दिन ब दिन रिच होता जाता था, और जो उसके नीचे जिसने उनसे कर्ज लिया होता था, लोन लिया होता, वो दिन ब दिन गरीब होता चला जाता. ये एक सिस्टम था और ये एक ऐसा जाल था, ये एक ऐसा ट्रैप था कि जो इसमें एक बार फंस गया फिर बहुत मुश्किल है कि वो उससे निकल पाए. So Islamic economic system is categorically against this system of trapping in the loop of interest. So number one provision is that we have to try our level best that there should not be any creation of interest. Number two, speculation, undue speculation. ऐसा होगा तो ऐसा करेंगे, ऐसा होगा तो ऐसा नहीं करेंगे. ये जो speculations होते हैं which leads to the creation of bubble, जो bubble create होता है, which is an artificial boom, that is not allowed at all. Any type of hoarding, जिसे कहते हैं काला बाजारी, is not allowed. You keep the products in store with the intention that the prices may rise and we will sell it at that point of time. बहुत हुआ है, hoarding is I don't know how many of you are aware of the shortage of oxygen cylinder during the COVID peak time. Oh my God, it was such a horrible situation that a oxygen cylinder, which has a market price of 600 or 700 rupees, is sold out at the price of 50,000 or 60,000 and 1 lakh rupees. That is what, that is the immoral condition. That's a very sad situation in the system. आप जानते हैं ना, ये मैं सही एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So holding is also one of the prohibition in Islam.
Is completely prohibited. Is completely prohibited. एक साहब यहाँ अलीगढ़ का एक किस्सा बता रहे थे कि जब कोविड का पीक टाइम चल रहा था, तो जो यहाँ मेडिकल कॉलेज है उसके बाहर बता रहे थे, वो गए थे ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर की तलाश में. तो वहाँ उन्होंने देखा कि एक आदमी बैठा हुआ है और ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर बेच रहा है, डील कर, बार्गेनिंग चल रही. उनको बहुत ज़रूरत थी, उन्होंने बार्गेनिंग में वो भी एंटर हो गए, एंड फाइनली द डील वॉज फाइनलाइज्ड at rupees 45,000. नाउ उनको लगा कि डील बहुत अच्छी है, उन्होंने फ़ौरन 45,000 पे करा, सिलेंडर को बड़ी मुश्किल के साथ अपने स्कूटर पे रखा और अपने घर लेकर आए. जब घर लेकर आए और उन्होंने उस सिलेंडर को मेन उससे कनेक्ट किया पाइप से, तो उन्होंने देखा कि वो सिलेंडर खाली था, देयर इज नो ऑक्सीजन. फिर वो वापस गए उस जगह. जब उस जगह गए तो वो पर्सन था ही नहीं, वो आदमी था ही नहीं जिसने उसमें बेचा. अब आप सोचिए क्या, मतलब क्या मॉरल वैल्यू है, क्या वैल्यू सिस्टम है. कैन यू इमेजिन? और वो 45,000 रुपीज़ हम और आप जो इस तरीके से हम उसको अर्न कर रहे हैं, वो हम कहाँ लेके जा रहे हैं. अब आप ये सोचिएगा. ये चीज़, ये फीलिंग आपके अंदर आना बहुत ज़रूरी है कि वो 45,000 जो मैंने इस तरह से कमाए, इस तरह से अर्न किए, वेल्थ जो क्रिएट करी मैंने, मैं उसे कहाँ लेके जा रहा हूँ. क्या मैं उस 45,000 रुपीज़ को जो मैंने इस तरह से अनड्यू क्रिएट किया, क्या मैं उसे अपने वेलफेयर के लिए यूज़ कर पाऊंगा? बताइए आप. ऐसा हो पाएगा मोहसिन? हेलो, आपको ये समझ में आया जो मैंने अभी आपको एग्जांपल दी थी? किस, ये जो होर्डिंग की एग्जांपल मैं आपको दे रहा था, तो ये this undue, this is the illegal way of creating the wealth, and it has no place in Islamic economic system at all. तो होर्डिंग का तो बहुत ही स्ट्रॉन्ग प्रोहिबिशंस में से एक प्रोहिबिशन है होर्डिंग का. हमारे वैल्यू सिस्टम तो ये है कि जो आपके पास सामान है आप उसे खर्च करो. हमारा तो वैल्यू सिस्टम ये है कि आपको होर्डिंग का कोई कंसेप्ट ही नहीं. वी हैव अ कंसेप्ट ऑफ fulfilling the demand, forgetting about what would happen in future. So whatever you have, and if you are in the market, your status is the status of seller. You have to sell it out. There is no concept of keeping the product with anticipation, with intention of selling it out later at a higher price. ये जो intention है, ये जो नियत है, बस that's the all. That is all. तो ये जो पूरा खेल है इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम का, वो पूरा इंटेंशंस के ऊपर है. अगर आपकी इंटेंशन सही थी तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लेकिन अगर आपकी इंटेंशन इज समथिंग एल्स, देन यू आर अगेंस्ट द प्रिंसिपल एंड यू हैव टू बी आंसरेबल एट द डे ऑफ जजमेंट. दिस फीलिंग नीड्स टू बी गॉट. ठीक है? So hoarding is one important thing. There are other ways by which you can create this thing, which are prohibited rather. So prohibitions, number one is interest, number two is any sort of speculation, uncertainty, hoarding, over trading. If you sell without possession, you are not the owner and you are selling it in the market on behalf of someone else. ये बहुत होता है. You are operational, you are working in the market on behalf of someone else. So ठीक है, वो तो allow है, you can work on behalf of someone else, but you are working on behalf of someone else without proper knowledge, that is very harmful. आप एक ऐसे ट्रेड में डील कर रहे हैं and you are working on behalf of someone and you don't have a proper knowledge of that product or service, that is not that is. So with this, I would like to conclude my today's discussion. So in quick, if I quickly summarize what I have discussed with you, focus is on making you the fundamentals of Islamic economic system. What are its key principles? What are its key dimensions? And the focus is on the value system. The focus is on the wealth creation, and lot of other things. Okay, so please make small points of what I have discussed with you. मैं चाहूँगा आप में से कोई एक ये जो मैंने डिस्कस किया है इसको पॉइंट वाइज नोट कर ले, and if possible you can share it with me also. Okay, and I hope that I do justice with this lecture. I hope that you are able to understand it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So I will conclude, and please, I will take the class on daily basis as per the schedule that you have discussed it with me. I will inform you beforehand. Like if I am taking the class in the afternoon, I will inform you in the morning, and likewise, I will give you ample time to plan your schedule. Okay? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.